welcome back. Today we're talking about how Agile teams actually track their schedule, not with a Gantt chart, but with three simple visuals: Burndown, Burnup, and Velocity. Each one answers a different question. And here's the thing. The PMP exam expects you to pick the right one for the situation. So by the end of this lesson, you'll read all three at a glance, and you'll be able to forecast when the work will actually finish. Let's get into it. Before we look at any chart, let's frame the whole topic. Three visuals, three different jobs. The Burndown asks, are we on pace inside this sprint? The Burnup asks, how much is done, and did the scope move? And Velocity asks, how much can this team realistically deliver per sprint? This is critical. Questions rarely ask, what is a Burndown chart? They hand you a situation and you choose the right tool. Keep that lens on as we go. First up, the Burndown chart. I like to call this one the trend spotter. It's the chart your team stares at every single day. Here's how a Burndown works. On the vertical axis, work remaining. On the horizontal, time left in the time box. Now picture two lines. The ideal line runs straight down to 0. Perfect. Even progress. The actual line is your team's reality. And here's the rule to lock in. Above the ideal line, you're behind. Below it, you're ahead. Use it daily. It's the heartbeat of the daily coordination meeting. If the line goes flat, nothing completing, you investigate now. You don't wait to announce a failure at the sprint review. Let's actually read one. Observe first. What's on screen? The gray dashed line is the ideal. The solid line is the actual. X-axis is the sprint day. Y-axis is story points remaining. Now interpret. Wherever the actual sits above the ideal, the team is behind. Below, ahead of schedule. Apply it on a real project. If that solid line goes flat for 2 or 3 days, something is blocked. That's your cue to dig in at the daily stand-up. And for the exam, this is where it gets real. The 2026 exam shows you the chart and asks you to diagnose it. Behind, ahead, or stalled, read the gap between the two lines. Two shapes show up again and again. Learn to spot them. First, the line that jumps up in the middle of the sprint. Remaining work went up? That means scope was added mid-flight, and this is a weakness of the Burndown. It hides the why. Second, the long flat line, then a sudden cliff near the end. It looks like nothing happened, then everything finished at once. This sounds fine, but it's a trap. Work that only completes at the very end usually means integration and testing were left to the last minute. That's risk hiding in plain sight. Now the Burnup chart. If the Burndown is the trend spotter, the Burnup is the scope tracker, and it fixes the exact blind spot we just saw. The Burnup flips the picture. Instead of counting down, it builds up 2 lines again. Up top, the scope line. That's total work, ideally flat, but it steps up whenever new work is added. Down low, the completed line. Starts at 0, climbs as you finish. And the finish rule is beautifully simple. When the completed line meets the scope line, you're done. This is the chart you bring to releases and to stakeholders. Let's read the Burnup. Observe 2 lines, scope on top, completed climbing from 0. Interpret the healthy case first. Panel A. The completed line rises in a clean diagonal toward scope. That's a team building steadily. Now Panel B completed climbs, then flattens after day 4. The team got blocked. No progress. Apply it. A flat completed line is your alarm bell. Investigate immediately. And for the exam, remember why Burnup wins. It shows scope and progress as 2 separate lines. So when scope creeps up, you can see it. The Burndown simply can't. Let me make the case plainly. Not just that Burnup looks nicer, but that it tells the truth about scope. 2 lines means you can point at the screen and say, look, the team is delivering fast, but the scope line keeps stepping up. That's a conversation the Burndown can't give you. This is critical for stakeholder trust. When a project is late, the Burnup shows whether it's a pace problem or a scope problem. 2 very different conversations. Here's the side-by-side. This table is the answer key for which chart and why questions. The one difference that matters most. How each handles scope change. Burndown burns down towards 0. Simple, great for the sprint, but change the scope and the line distorts. Burnup builds up toward total scope and shows scopes separately. So lock in the best use rule. Burn down for the daily sprint, burn up for releases and anywhere scope can move. Think about your last project. Which one would have told the real story? Last piece, velocity. This is the team's throughput gauge. And it's what lets you turn a backlog into an actual finish date. Velocity is just one number, story points completed per sprint. But how you treat it matters enormously. It's empirical. It describes what the team actually did. Now hear this clearly. Velocity is not a target. It is not a stick to measure individuals. The moment you weaponize it, the numbers stop being honest. For forecasting, use the average of the last 3 to 5 sprints. One sprint tells you almost nothing. The average tells you the trend. 4 panels, 4 different stories. Observe. Each panel plots sprints S1 through S8 with a dashed average line. Stable. The bars hover around the average, near 31 points. Predictable. Easy to forecast. Increasing. Bars climb. The team is maturing. Declining. Bars fall. Something is wrong. And the outlier, one sprint spikes to 50. Watch what it does to the average. It drags it up. Here's the exam trap. Candidates grab the highest sprint, or the most recent one. Don't. Read the shape of the trend first. Pair this lookup with the 4 panels you just saw. Stable velocity. Consistent team. Use the average directly. Increasing? The team is maturing. Use the average, but stay a little conservative. Declining? This is the important one. Impediments are piling up. Do not forecast yet. Investigate the root cause first and recommend a retrospective. Outlier? One freak sprint, high or low. Exclude it. Use the stable average. Memorize this row by row. Scenario questions test it directly, especially the declining and outlier cases. Now the math, and it's friendlier than it looks. Sprints remaining equals remaining story points divided by average velocity. Then weeks remaining is just sprints times the sprint length. Let's walk 1. A backlog of 120 points, average velocity of 30. 120 divided by 30, that's 4 sprints. 4 sprints, 2 weeks each, 8 weeks to go. One more tool, Agile SPI. Story points completed divided by planned. Planned 50, finished 30. That's 0.6. 60%. Notice I use the average velocity. Always the average. Let this number land. 8 weeks. That's not a guess. It came straight from the team's own average velocity. And that's the whole point of velocity forecasting. When a stakeholder asks, when will it be done? You don't shrug. You give a date backed by data. This is where Agile project managers earn trust. Let's bank the exam points. Rule 1. Forecast from the average of completed sprints. Not the most recent, not the best. The average. Rule 2. If velocity is declining, the answer is rarely push harder. It's find the impediments, run a retrospective. Rule 3. Outliers get excluded before you average. And Rule 4. When a stakeholder asks when, give a real date from velocity. Vague answers are wrong answers on this exam. This is where many candidates slip. Don't be one of them. Let's tie it together. 1. The burn down is your daily lens on remaining work in the sprint. 2. The burn up separates scope from progress. That's your release chart. 3. Velocity is team throughput, forecast from the 3 to 5 sprint average. 4. Sprints remaining is points divided by velocity. Drop the outliers and give a real date. Get these 4, and the graphic questions on this topic become easy points. And that wraps our look at Agile schedule metrics. You can now read a burn down, read a burn up, pick the right one for the room, and forecast a finish date straight from velocity. That's it for this lesson. See you in the next one.